It's been down for a while, that tree. I'm surprised they've not cut it up for firewood, you know. Obviously not in need of any firewood. I was thinking, yesterday, I was walking and I was thinking about, you know, the people that know what's happening to you, not the ones participating. I mean, they're just filth, they're dirt, they're screwed. They're screwed, they're going to get what's coming to them eventually. You have to always be assured of that in your own mind, you know, because I know this is demoralising. I know that I'm demoralised loads of the time, you know. I feel so kind of pissed off and angry and frustrated and lonely, and you know, all the negative feelings associated with what they're doing, you know. But I try and hold it in my mind that they're eventually going to reap what it is that they sow. So if you can see over there, let's see. Just an ambulance sitting, but there was blue lights as well. Yeah, it's demoralising. So I'm not talking about those. They're gonna get their fucking just desserts. You have to be assured of that in your mind. Eventually, I'm talking about the ones who know what's going on and yet do nothing. You know, they're well aware of what's happening to you, yet they sit in the background and they don't. Just going over a stile. In style. They sit back and they don't say a word, you know. They don't speak up, and you'll know them. You know them by, I've had them throughout the years, and they'll kind of look at you with, you can tell they've got kind of some kind of sympathy in their eyes, you know. You can tell just the way they look, and you know they're not comfortable with what's been done to you, but still they don't speak up. And you know, I presume it's through fear. And I can understand that to a certain extent. I can understand, you know, a lot of people have got a lot of things to lose, and I don't live in fear any longer, because they kind of played their hand with me and took everything off me that meant everything to me, you know. By removing my children from my lives and turning them against me, you've kind of played your card. I don't have any fear left in my life. I'm not concerned about what happens to me, because there's just nothing there that I'm invested in, you know. There's not. So, like I've said in a post before, you can't kill someone twice, and by removing them from me, it's left me without any fear. So I'm happy to kind of carry on and go about naming these people and explaining what's happened to me, in the hopes that someone else will be able to relate to it. There's the wind picking up now. In the hopes that someone else will be able to relate to it, and we'll kind of share a similar story, you know, and maybe be able to pinpoint some of the same people, you know, that's been involved in their targeting. Kind of criminal network that operates within central Scotland, alongside the criminal gang, which is the police, and the military, of course. We don't let them have a pass. This has been going on years and years and years and years. But yeah, when I was thinking about them yesterday, and I was in my mind, I was thinking, oh, they're just as guilty, you know. They deserve exactly the same as the people who are participating. They're just as bad by not speaking up. They're cowards, you know. And then today, as I was walking, you know, sometimes I can be very black and white thinking, and I'm quite, I probably come across as quite aggressive, not just in my use of bad language. It probably seems like I'm quite an aggressive person in my descriptions of people, you know, the ways that I speak, using to describe. My hair's sticking up like that. I've been walking about like that all day, looking like a moron. Yeah, the way I used to describe people, you know, on flattering terms, using their weight and whatever else I can use to describe them, really. So I probably sound quite aggressive, come across as quite aggressive and quite nasty, you know. I'm not. I'm actually a really caring, loving person. I'm just kind of pissed off, so pissed off with my surroundings now and the people all around me, that I just don't hold back any longer. You know, but sometimes my thinking is quite black and white. And then today on my walk, I was thinking back at some things that have happened within my life, and the way that people that I've been around have tried to kind of I can't think of the word. I knew what it was earlier when I was thinking about it, but they try and entrap you, entrapment. They try and entrap you in their ways of thinking. So you'll start in a workplace and you'll be around people who share a similar sense of humour. I like people who make me laugh. It's always something that's attracted me to people. My dad was quite a humorous guy. He had a good sense of humour. So it's always been something that I've been attracted to, and they know this, so they'll put people that kind of make me laugh around me, and you'll share similar views, similar outlooks, similar backgrounds, similar likes and dislikes. And then there'll be a point, where they'll start saying things that aren't on a level with my way of thinking, whether it's kind of racist things or, things that are kind of within the mainstream media that maybe I don't agree with, or things like that. And I'll give you an example. This guy that I was kind of that was not a relationship, a kind of sexual relationship, a very short-term sexual relationship. His name was Douglas Muirhead. I've wrote a post about him. He works for a company called Turner Aviation, and he's connected to Callum Fraser of Hannay Fraser, the solicitors, who I pissed off years and years ago, and who, as a result of me pissing him off, has involved himself very much in my targeting and put people into my life, i.e. Douglas Muirhead. Now, I was having a conversation with Douglas once, and I'd had a couple of drinks. We'd both had a couple of drinks, and he was saying, he made a joke. He was saying it while he was smiling and laughing, and he was talking about how when his daughter was, I think he said a teenager actually, my daughter was a teenager and she was in the paddling pool with her friend, and when her friend came out he went, oh, I had to walk away in the house, and he laughed. I don't think that's particularly funny, but I'm quite a people pleaser, and I just I brushed it off as a joke, something that never happened, and it was just kind of a little bit of unsavoury humour, that he's, it's kind of dark humour, and I laughed, and they used that against me. I'm quite lucky in the fact that, they showed me a lot of these recordings, and I remember them showing me, and I like being shown them, and the ones that were heard, and this was one of them, and them saying that I'm a paedophile sympathiser, and that I agree with what it was that he was saying by not by laughing when he said it, Now this is a plant. He was a plant. It's an example of what they'll kind of do to trap you. And I've had, like I say, people that I've worked with that have said kind of racist things, or all kind of dark humour kind of jokes, things that they're kind of on a line. They're on a line, but maybe some people wouldn't find them funny, but I suppose my thinking is that humour doesn't really have any kind of boundaries. There's nothing that I don't find, and I'm not a kind of sick-minded person where in reality I would think that what he said was acceptable, but you have to take all these things in the situation of when they're being said, and how they're being said, and the way that person's coming across. And of course they never showed the visual of that, of him kind of laughing and joking around, or the build up to that. All they done was played the audio to me, that very, very just an exact of that audio, nothing before, nothing after, to kind of say, you agree with this kind of thing. That is because that's the narrative that they're trying to paint. They want to paint me as not only a paedophile, but also an animal abuser, someone who's racist, someone who's just has a heart that is filled with hate against everyone who is not myself, basically. So that's kind of the way they entrap you, And then if I go back to what I was thinking yesterday about, the people who don't speak up about your target, and they're just as bad because they're cowards, and they've got a responsibility to speak up, and I still kind of believe that to a certain extent, But then I think about my own actions in the past, about when people have said certain things to me, and and knowing that they were wrong, and in the context of maybe joking, but really, I shouldn't have went along with just agreeing it, being a kind of people pleaser and wanting to keep the peace and wanting to kind of laugh and joke around with people. I've not stood up and said anything. Look at this fucking clown. So then I can't then say that, other people not speaking up is the wrong thing to do, when I've done it myself in the past. So you know, it's a really, fucking Diddy's putting me off now. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So I try not to be too harsh on people. I try not to think too black and white about situations, about what people should and shouldn't be doing, and what I would do, because I need to really think back about my own actions in the past and the way that I haven't spoken up and the way that I've maybe kind of gone along with things that aren't right, you know. And I can make excuses for them all day long about humour and such, but it's really about knowing yourself and really about owning up to the fact and realising that you weren't doing the right thing at the time, you know, and kind of accepting that within yourself and forgiving yourself for it as well. You've got to forgive yourself because you're not a bad person just because you've kind of, you know, maybe not spoken up or maybe done things that now in this reality you've realised that weren't the best things to do. So anyway, that's all I've got to say. So yeah, take care. God bless. Bye bye.